So you want to be a content creator. Welcome to Hired by God. My name is Charles Reynolds. I'm a video strategist. I'm a content creator. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a project manager. And I've had the privilege of being able to grow a fairly large online social media presence. And so I get questions from a lot of people on my network asking, well, I want to be a content creator. How do I start? I don't know. What do I buy? How do I grow an audience? I decided to create a video, a masterclass on how to become a content creator. This is for someone who has never made a single piece of content before, and they have visions of building a large audience and providing value to that audience. This is for somebody who doesn't know how to make engaging content, doesn't know what gear they need to buy, doesn't have a plan, right? This is for that person who is just starting out at content creation. They know they want to do it, they just don't know how to start. I'm creating this free masterclass, one, to help people just get started with content creation. But second, because I want them to go deeper with me in my Hired by God School community, where we deep dive into content creation, how to make money from your content. And we even talk about just biblical wisdom that we can apply to just growing a business. That's my goal of just being very transparent. We're going to jump into this masterclass today. It's going to be long, but it's not going to be any fluff. So if you want to know how to become a content creator, you want the steps from A to Z, then watch this video all the way through. Let's get started. All right, welcome to the How to Become a Content Creator Masterclass. Here's what we're going to cover in this masterclass today. Number one, why content creation is the future. Two, the number one key to being successful as a content creator. Number three, what is the essential gear and the software that you need to buy to be a content creator? And we're going to cover every budget. Four, we're going to talk about how to make your videos look professional. We all see these high quality videos on social media. How can we replicate that? And then five, we're going to talk about how to get your first 1,000 followers in 30 days. Before we continue, make sure to follow me on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at Create with J Will. Make sure to share this masterclass with your friends, your family, anyone you know who wants to become a content creator. Warning, there's no fluff in this video. So that means that you need to watch the entire video. Do not skip. Don't fast forward. Everything in here is valuable, but what you can do is you can watch the video in 1.5 or 2 times speed if you want to gain some of your time back. So let's talk about why content creation is still the future. There's this notion out there that content creation is oversaturated. It's not worth getting into. There's not any money in it. You can't make money as a content creator. And that is just simply not true. But before we go forward, I want to level set. Everybody is a content creator. Some just do it at a higher level than others. We all have Instagram. We all have some kind of social media platforms, unless you're really just living under a rock or you have something against the internet or against social media. So if you're putting out pictures of your family, if you're putting out pictures of your cat, you're a content creator. You're creating content for other people to consume. If you are venting on Facebook, if you're venting on Twitter, you're a content creator. All right. So I just want you to wrap your head around the fact that you're already a content creator. We're just going to learn how to do it at a higher level. Is it too late to get into content creation? That's the question. So we talked about a little bit how there's this thought out there that content creation is oversaturated. But I want to pull out this quote from Gary Vee. The market is the market. As long as you are bringing value, you will win. Ignore the notion of saturation and focus on delivering what you do best. And before we go any further, I want to wrap your mind around the fact that becoming a full-time content creator isn't about making money. If that's what you're in it for, you're going to have a hard time growing an audience. Being a content creator is about providing value, real value to an audience that needs and wants what you have to offer. And so that's what we're going to focus on. But let's play a game really quick. True or false? I'm going to throw out some statements and I want to see if you can guess whether or not the statement is true or false. The first statement is what? The content creation industry is set to reach $480 billion by 2027. True or false? I give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The answer is true. So as you can see, this industry is growing and it's growing significantly. So there's opportunity for you to take advantage and get a piece of the pie. Second statement, the highest percentage of content creators making six figures have over 100,000 followers. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The answer is false. Believe it or not, the highest percentage of creators making six figures have between 10 to 99,000 followers. So in order for you to make a full-time living off of content creation, you don't have to have a crazy amount of followers. You just have to have an audience that is engaged with you, that you understand, you know how to speak to them, and you know how to solve their problems. So I got this from Kajabi's The State of the Creators 24 report. I highly suggest you look that up and check it out. Let's get into content strategy. This is the number one key to success as a content creator. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And that's what content strategy is all about. And so I have a 6-step content strategy that for beginner creators that you can follow that will help give you a plan or roadmap to growing an audience pretty quickly. Number one, you need to define your content goals. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to make money? Are you trying to build an audience? Are you just trying to share knowledge? Or are you trying to do all three? If those are your goals, you simply need to define them and to write them down. The second is discover and decode your audience. You have to get to know your audience and what is valuable to them. You're not making content for you. You're making content for somebody else. And so in order to make content that they're going to consume, you have to understand them. Number 3, choose your platforms and formats. The truth is, whatever you choose to make content on, it may not work on every platform. Your audience may not be on LinkedIn, but they may be on YouTube or they may be on Instagram. So you need to choose what platforms you're going to target and what kind of formats you're going to create content in. And we're going to talk about that more in depth later. When it comes to your platforms, you may not know where your audience is and you may need to experiment with different platforms. But when you find the platforms that your audience or you're getting the most engagement, you're going to want to double down on those platforms. Number 4, plan your content. So you have to have a system for generating ideas and you need to be able to schedule and be consistent with posting your content. So I, for example, create a content calendar so I know what content's coming out for the next 90 days. You need to optimize your content for SEO. And we call this creating evergreen content. Evergreen content is content that's always going to be needed versus trending content, which is here today, gone tomorrow. It's based on, what's going on right now. And it's probably not going to be relevant 6 months, a year, 2 years down the line. And you need to be able to evaluate your performance and adapt. And this is one of the most important parts of the strategy that I see a lot of people struggle with. You have to be prepared to adapt your strategy based on its performance and the feedback you get from your audience. So let's talk about defining your goals. All right. 1, you need to understand what you want to achieve with your content. And we somewhat talked about that, right? But you need to set specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. And we call this SMART goals. I was first introduced to SMART goals as a project manager. I do IT project management, and I set SMART goals for my employees. These SMART goals help give us a defined target so that when we evaluate each year, I can see whether or not my employees actually were able to attain their goals. And you want to set the same thing for yourself when it comes to content creation. You want to determine who it is that you're creating for and the unique perspective and skills you will offer them. All right. So this is all about deciding who your target audience is. If you are creating content for rock climbers, you're not going to want to be talking about how to fix a car. Right. I mean, this is very obvious, but the point is you want to be able to determine who your target audience is, and you want to be able to understand them. You want to know their interests. You want to know their skill sets. You want to know their pain points, their desires, their concerns. These are things you need to be intimately familiar with in order to speak to them and create content that resonates with them. So let's talk about understanding your audience. So we have to define who our audience is. And, defining them is not just saying I make content for rock climbers. You want to understand the demographics. How old is the average audience member? What's their gender, location? But even more important than demographics is their psychographics. What are their interests? What are their desires? What are their challenges? What are their pain points, their motivations? You want to understand these things about your audience. And one way to help do that is to create audience personas. An audience persona is a document that details a fictional character of the type of person you're creating content for. So you want to give this person a name, an age, a gender. You want to give this person an occupation, and you want to go through what are the interests of this person. What is their challenges in life? What are their desires? That will help to bring out and help you to resonate with your target audience and really understand them. Next, you want to gather data. So if you're planning to create content for a specific audience, you want to ask that audience questions. If you want to tap into your current areas of influence. So I'm assuming you're creating content around subjects that you are already familiar with. I hope you are, at least. And so that means you probably already have circles of people who are also interested in the same things you are. Leverage that, ask them questions, conduct surveys, go on your competitors' sites and look at what their viewers are asking. Look at the topics that they're providing for their viewers to get an understanding of what is resonating with their audience, what topics are they interested in, what questions are they having. This kind of research, we call it market research. This kind of research is invaluable to your success. We talked about this a little bit. Analyze your competitors, look at their content and look at their engagement. All right. And now we want to test and validate. We're going to create content that we think works for our target audience, and then we're going to see what sticks. Do your best to encourage feedback from your audience about your content. You can ask questions in your videos. You can conduct polls, surveys. You want to get as much feedback from them as possible. And what we're going to do with this is that once we validate topics in formats that work, we're going to double down on those topics and those formats. Last, engage continuously. So keep the conversation going by regularly interacting with your audience. You can do this with live streams, Q&A sessions, and community posts. Next, let's talk about choosing your platforms and your formats. So one, you want to decide on the type of content you will produce. Now, everybody wants to make video, even though I highly recommend everybody making video because video is the best form of content out there. But it could be tweets, it could be vlogs, it could be interviews, it could be articles, it could be tutorials. Decide on what kind of content that you're going to produce. Maybe you want to make content for entertainment. Maybe you want to make tutorials teaching people new skills. Either way, you have to iron out what kind of formats and kind of content you're going to produce and where. Now, you want to consider the format that best suits your audience preferences and your strengths. If your audience likes to consume videos, well, then you're going to have to make videos. If your audience likes to listen to podcasts, make podcasts. Now, do these things if they're your strengths or you're interested in doing them. I'm not saying, make content that you don't enjoy because that's a quick way to burn out. But what I am saying is that make the kind of content that your audience prefers. Make the kind of content that you'll enjoy making that fits into what your audience prefers. You have to tailor your content to fit the demographics and preferences of each platform. What do I mean by that? So, for example, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, they are pushing short form content, right? You can create YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikToks. And recently, TikTok has actually been pushing long form content as well. So you need to figure out your platforms, understand them, understand what kind of content they're looking for so that you can create that content and increase your chances of getting viewership. Now, the key is to focus on 2 to 3 platforms where your target audience is most active. And then you want to optimize your content and your strategy for the unique features and preferences of each network. So if your audience is on YouTube and Instagram, right, you want to focus on those 2 platforms and you want to create your content in a way that is agreeable with those platforms. So you want to create shorts for YouTube, you want to create long form content for YouTube, and you want to create shorts for Instagram Reels. Moving forward, the next part of the strategy is to plan your content. Now, to plan your content, the first thing you want to do is you want to conduct keyword research. This is a great way to uncover specific questions, problems, interests of your audience. And the way you want to do it is you want to start by targeting or searching broad keywords. So a broad keyword could be how to build a car, but a long tail keyword is more of a niche down keyword. So how to build the engine in a Ford Mustang. Same concept, but it's a more detailed keyword within your niche. Next, you want to ask your audience. This is one of the best ways that I love to generate topics, content ideas, is just to ask, what are you guys interested in? What are you guys interested in learning? What are you struggling with? Number 3, you want to analyze your competitors. And we've gone over this already, but analyze their most popular content to identify what formats work for their audience, which topics resonate with your shared audience. And then you want to put your own spin on it. So for example, if you're looking at a competitor and you see they're doing skits, you may want to take that format and create a skit about a particular topic that you want to educate your viewers on. Last, leverage social media. Do some stalking of influencers and brands you follow to see what topics are being discussed. You want to stay relevant with what's going on in your industry. You want to stay relevant with what's going on in your niche so that you have content ideas to talk about. So optimizing your content for SEO. SEO stands for search engine optimization. You basically want to learn the basics of SEO. This is going to improve the visibility of your content in search engines. And SEO pairs with what we talked about, evergreen content. For example, my wife has a speech therapy YouTube channel. And when we first started, we put out 5 videos based on our keyword research. And those first 5 videos, they didn't go viral. But one of those videos, it's been two or 3 years now, is continually getting her views day in and day out because we did some SEO on that video. And now when you type in food aversions, she's one of the top videos that come up on Google. So now she's, almost at 100,000 views over 2 years because whenever someone searches food aversions, her video pops up. And that's all due to search engine optimization. And I know it sounds complicated, but it's really not. It's all about leveraging keywords. So you have to do keyword research and then use keywords in your titles, your descriptions, and your tags effectively. And some tools to do some keyword research, you can just simply do a Google search. Google has a keyword tool. And there's a few others that I will link in the description below. All right, so we talked about creating evergreen content. So once you find these keywords, again, you want to create content around the keyword research. All right, so I want to show you how to do some keyword research on TikTok. So believe it or not, TikTok has its own search engine, and millennials and Gen Z, they're using this to find out information on different topics. So here's an example of how I use TikTok to do some keyword research. At the top left, you see I put in a broad keyword, which is speech delay. And what happens is when you search this on the right-hand side, TikTok will give you a result of different videos attached to speech delay, but it will also give you additional keywords or key phrases that people are searching related. At the bottom here, you can see autism for speech delay, how to fix speech delay. These are invaluable to you as a content creator and can give you endless content ideas and endless evergreen content ideas. The same goes for on the right. You see I put in how to play golf, and TikTok gave me some additional keywords. Rules of golf explained, how to play golf explained, golf explained for dummies. You want to use these search terms or search phrases in your titles as text in your videos, in your descriptions and your captions. This is going to help rank your videos and get them exposed to more people who are interested in this particular topic. So the last part of our content strategy is to evaluate and iterate. So you want to review your content's performance and use the analytical tools provided by the platforms. You want to follow engagement metrics such as watch time, shares, saves, and follows. On most social media platforms, watch time is crucial. Watch time is how long somebody watches your particular video. And the more they watch your video, the better your video is going to do. Adapt. Secondly, you have to adapt your strategy based on what content performs well and based on audience feedback. And I see a lot of creators make this mistake. They keep making the same content over and over and over and over again, thinking that, okay, it'll eventually go viral. But that's the definition of insanity, right? To do the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. You can't be that attached to your content because you're not making content for you. You're making content for others. And they're going to tell you whether or not your content is for them or not. When you're making content, when you're picking your formats, when you're going through your strategy, always evaluate it periodically and see, hey, is this pushing me towards my SMART goals or is it not? And if it's not, you need to figure out what you need to change and adapt to so that you can produce content that performs well. Test different formats, test different topics, be testing continuously. That is the name of the game forever. There will never be a point where if you're a content creator, you're not continuously testing out different formats and different types of content. And so I want to just show you really quickly one of my, the metrics for one of my videos. So on the left here, you see it got 141,000 views. It got 15,000 likes. It got 200 shares. It got 133 comments. So it got a ton of engagement. And here you can see that 55% of the people watched the full video. The video is short. It's only 7 seconds, and they watched 6 of the 7 seconds, 6.8 of the 7 seconds. So that's a really high watch time. And that's probably the reason why it got so many views, not to mention it brought me in over 1,600 followers. So I just want to give you an idea of what the metrics are. I don't want you to, as a beginner content creator, I don't want you to obsess over metrics because you don't even know how to make good content yet. The metrics are there for you. They're there for you to learn from. They're there for you to use to grow. But I don't want you to be obsessed like, oh, I don't have 100,000 followers on this post. But I do want to give you a snapshot of what it looks like, what to look out for as you grow, what to look out for as part of your strategy. All right, let's talk about the software, the gear that you need to buy to be a content creator. I'm going to cover some of the essential stuff. I'm going to cover things that's going to help optimize your workflow and help you to create content faster. I'm going to provide gear for every budget. So let's talk about the content creator kit. One, you're going to need filming equipment, obviously. So you're going to need a camera. You're going to need some way to take in audio, and you're going to need lighting equipment if you want to create high quality video. We'll talk about the video editing equipment. So you have to be able to edit your content on some kind of video editing software. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about digital assets like stock footage, stock music that you're going to need to use to enhance your content creation. We'll talk about graphic design tools, what I recommend, and we'll talk about AI tools and the AI tools that I use to speed up my workflow. Now, just to give you a little hint about how AI has completely transformed the content creation game. Remember that State of the Creators report we talked about earlier? Well, in that report, it was revealed that creators who are making a 6-figure income through social media use AI twice as much as everybody else. That's how important AI has become and how useful it's become in becoming a content creator. AI is here. It's the future. If you can afford it, use it. There's free versions of most AI tools. If you can't afford it, it's here. It's not going anywhere, guys. So let's talk about filming equipment. When it comes to filming, you know you need a camera. Now, the truth of the matter is you can do everything with your smartphone. Smartphones these days, they come with 4K cameras that can get, high quality footage. And if you don't have the budget for a mirrorless camera, I would just recommend starting with your smartphone. Don't let it hold you back. Don't think that it's going to compromise the quality of your content. It's not. Your content will be high quality. It will be fine. Just use your smartphone. But if you want to level up the quality of your content, then I'd recommend the Sony ZV-E10 for a higher quality look. The Sony ZV-E10 is actually what I'm using right now to film myself recording this masterclass. You can kind of see the quality of it as it is now. It gets great video, and your content will stand out even more on social media because it'll have that higher quality look. And if you want to take it to the next level, and maybe you want to start, creating a lot of cinematic film, and you want to kind of start edging into like filmmaking and things like that, I would recommend the Sony a7S III. These cameras, like I said, are overkill for content creation, just being honest. But say you're a filmmaker, you want to make content in your niche, then yeah, I would recommend this. But if you're somebody who makes content on landscaping, I don't think you need a Sony a7S III, to be honest. These are 3 options. I have even more options. So look, in the description below, I'm going to have a list of all the products and more that I talk about in this masterclass. They are affiliate links, so it does help me if you use them, but it is no extra cost to you. So let's talk about lenses. If you go the smartphone route, then this is not applicable. But if you get any of the mirrorless camera options that I recommend, then there's 3 kind of lenses that you're going to want to get. You're going to want to get a prime lens, you're going to want to get a wide angle lens, and a zoom lens. The prime lens is the cheapest lenses you're going to be able to buy. They are typically very small. They're typically very light. They get really, really sharp images, and they typically have a very low f-stop, meaning that you get that blurry background in that bokeh. So I'd highly recommend, if you don't have a large budget, to start with the prime lens. If you have more of a budget, then I would say also look at a wide angle lens. Wide angle lenses are really good, especially if you're creating content in a small room. If you're creating content in a small room and you don't have a lot of space and your face is cropped in or your face is cut off, I'd recommend a wide angle lens. I use the Viltrox AF 13mm. It's a very, very sharp lens, gives a very, very high quality look, and allows me to capture my entire office. The last lens I want to recommend is a zoom lens. A zoom lens is like your Swiss Army knife. It allows you to capture different, we call them focal lengths. So you can get wide angles and you can get tight angles or close angles. Zoom lenses are going to always be more expensive. Here's my recommendation, the Tamron 17 to 28mm. So let's talk about audio. When it comes to creating high quality videos, audio is actually the most important element. People are more willing to watch a video with bad video quality than they are with poor audio quality. So here are 3 ways you can get some pretty high quality audio. One, you want to do a cardioid mic. Sorry, it's a typo there. I recommend the Rode Pod mic. That's what I'm using right here. You're going to need to get a couple of accessories in order to be able to use this mic, which includes an XLR cable and what we call an audio interface to plug into your computer. That's going to be the cheapest mic in the list. Next up is the lavalier mic, the Rode Wireless Go 2. I use these as well. Lav mics are the mics that you can pin on your shirt and your clothing, and they get a high quality audio. Typically blocks out any noise and allows you to get crisp audio. The third mic is the shotgun mic. The shotgun mic is like a boom mic, which you can have either on your camera or you can have on a C-stand out of view. This is going to get you some really high quality audio. It's going to be out of the way of the visual. So you're not going to see, like a lav mic on here, or you're not going to see this podcast mic. You can just talk and move around freely and you won't even see the mic and it won't be in the way of the visual. Let's talk about lighting. Right after audio, I would say lighting is the next most important element if you want to create a high quality video look. It doesn't really matter what camera you have, your smartphone, a mirrorless. If your lighting is not right, the image is going to look bad. Here are 3 options for lighting for every budget. One, I would say the ring light. The ring light is for those of you who don't have a strong budget. It's going to give you an even soft look on your face. People will be able to see you clearly. It will look highly professional, and a lot of content creators use simply a ring light. The next one is the light panel, a key light by Godox. This is a light that you can attach to your desk and it's going to give you a really strong, soft, even light on your face. And then the next light is what we call cob lights. And these are lights that professional filmmakers use when they're lighting their scenes and lighting their subjects. This is going to be a lot of bulkier. What you're seeing here is a cob light with a softbox attached. The softbox is what softens the light and makes it look more appealing on your face and on your subjects. This is going to be $500 and plus, for the whole setup. There are some cob lights that are like really Godox. The SL60 cob light itself is maybe $150. You add in the softbox and things like that, it can get more expensive. These are the 3 light sources that I recommend if you want to get professional, high quality lighting. So let's talk about some accessories. So for your filming equipment, let's talk about some accessories. With our film equipment, there's light stands, there's backdrops, tripods, and then what we call practical lights. And practical lights are the lights you see in the background that give it a certain aesthetic. Practical lights could be like a floor lamp, neon signs, light bulbs, tube lights, etc. Audio equipment, I mentioned before, if you do choose to get a mic like the one I'm using here, you're going to need an audio interface. You're going to need a microphone boom arm, which is what this mic is connected to. The microphone boom arm attaches to your desks and allows you to stretch your microphone to the front of your face. You're going to need XLR cables. XLR cables is what plugs this microphone into the audio interface. And then you can use things like wind filters, which is this thing on top of the mic itself. That helps to block out background noise and block out wind and stuff like that. Again, I'm going to provide a link to everything we talked about in this presentation and more These are affiliate links. They don't increase the cost for you, but they do help me out. So let's talk about video editing. What are you going to need to edit your videos? Well, you're going to need video editing software. And the two I recommend are CapCut and DaVinci Resolve. Why? Because they both have free and they both have paid versions. CapCut, you can edit on your phone and on your desktop. DaVinci Resolve, you can only edit on your desktop. I would recommend CapCut for anybody who's solely creating content on their phones. You can record it on your phone. You can edit on your phone. It's a very streamlined workflow. If you're creating content with an external, like a mirrorless camera, I would highly recommend, dabbling with DaVinci Resolve. 95% of its full functionality is provided in the free version. It's a really good entryway to professional editing. In my opinion, you can do a lot more with DaVinci Resolve. Next, you're going to need stock footage and digital assets. And there are sites, Vital Elements, Artlist, Epidemic Sound, that I recommend that are subscription-based sites that provides you with unlimited access to stock footage, to stock music, to templates, to photos, to graphics, to whatever you can think of. These are going to be elements that are invaluable to your content creation that you're going to want to use. So I highly recommend these subscription sites. They're not necessary. They're not required. They are optional, but I would recommend them if you're going to be creating content. Again, graphic design tools, Canva, Lightroom, Photoshop. These are industry standards. Canva is probably the most used tool of the three because it can just do so much. It's just so much you can do with Canva. I can't even go into all that you can do with it. I highly recommend Canva to design your graphics, to design your thumbnails, to design, whatever graphics you're going to post on social media, etc. And last but not least, let's talk about some of these AI tools, which are all completely optional, but can help your workflow. So ChatGPT, I use this one to generate content ideas, to create AI images, and I can do so much more with custom GPTs where I can create my own, basically, Chat GPT. Submagic. Now, this one is an awesome AI video editor and caption editor. If you want to create some really dynamic captions, I highly suggest using Submagic. It is on the pricier side at $50 a month, but its output is insane. I'm gonna just say that. Cast Magic. You can use this one to repurpose your long form content. So if you have an hour-long podcast and you want to create multiple shorts, this tool will do it in like 2 minutes. Another really cool functionality with this tool is that you can just record your thoughts into the app and it will create content for you. It will categorize it. It will create an outline for you. It'll create all kinds of content just from a voice recording. So I really like this tool. All right, so let's talk about how to make your videos look professional. All right, so here's what we're going to cover to accomplish this look. One, we're going to talk about setting up your film space, choosing the right location, creating the aesthetic that you want. We'll talk about lighting your space. So how do you light your videos to make them look professional, as you saw in that last video? What are the camera settings that you need when you're recording your videos? And then what are some video editing best practices for making high quality videos? Setting up your space. So the first thing you need to do, obviously, is to optimize your background. That means removing clutter, and you need to find elements that reflect your brand or theme. We all kind of have an idea of a look or an aesthetic that resonates with us. You want to find things that you can put in your background that resonate with whatever your personality is, or maybe the type of content you're creating. Maybe you're creating content for a garden enthusiast and you want a bunch of plants in the background. That would be an element that you would want to put in your background. The second thing is you want to create depth. To create depth, there's a couple of things that you can do. One, you can add background elements like bookshelves you see behind me. You never want to shoot against a flat wall because there's no depth. So to create depth, you want to pull yourself away from the background as much as possible. So a big part of creating high quality audio is to do your best to remove background noise and to remove the echo. Whatever space that you're setting up in, one, if it's a space with carpet, that's great because that's going to help reduce the echo. You can add in couches and curtains also to reduce the echo. You can't see it behind me, but I have acoustic panels in my room, and you can use these to enhance your sound quality, to block out the noise. I've also listed some acoustic panels in the affiliate links in the description. Lighting. So you want to either use natural light or artificial light. You can use one of the light sources that we talked about earlier, or you can position yourself next to a window. Windows are a great source of light, one, because the window by nature, it softens the light that's coming in from the sun. The sun is an awesome light source when it can be softened. So let's talk about lighting your space. Professionally, I just want to introduce this to you. There's something called artificial 3-point lighting. 3-point lighting is what it sounds like. You have 3 sources of light surrounding your subject that create a professional look. The main light, or what we call the key light, is the light responsible for lighting your subject. Now that key light is typically placed at a 14-degree angle from where you're going to be facing the camera. On the other side, you're going to have what's called a fill light. And the fill light will be the light that fills in the shadows created by the key light. The last light you want is a backlight, and the backlight serves to separate your subject from the background. And as a bonus, there's a 4th light called a practical light. And the practical light, as we mentioned before, are lights in the background that give you an aesthetic and make your background more interesting. And this diagram is my actual setup here in my office. Next, you want to soften your lights. So we mentioned how the window softens the sunlight that comes in. But with artificial light, you can use a softbox to soften your light. You can use umbrellas, or you could even use a white blanket. You just need something that sits between you and the light source that will help it not be as harsh on your subject. Let's just say you're not filming inside. Maybe you're filming outside. You want to shoot during golden hour. Now, golden hour is an hour after sunrise and an hour before sunset. So whatever time the sun is rising or setting in your area, golden hour is that hour where the light is not intense, the light is soft, and it gives a really flattering look. Last but not least, you want to use complementary colors with your lights. So colors in your lighting can add visual interest and depth. I use orange and blue because they are across from each other on the color wheel, and we'll break that down in a second. But they provide a high contrast and vibrant look. Let's talk about the color wheel for a second. So the color wheel is a guide to helping you create high contrasting looks that are visually pleasing and that help provide depth. As I mentioned before, I use orange and blue because they're across from each other on the color wheel. You could use yellow and purple. You could use red and green. This color wheel is just a guide to help you figure out what colors you want to use in your background to give it some more depth. So one more time, we're going to look at this side-by-side video of my office and the diagram that corresponds with it. As you can see, my face is dark. You can't see it at all. And this represents the diagram when there's actually no lights. You can see I had to put some light in here. This is the actual room light, overhead light. But when you're lighting your space, you want to cut off all sources of light that you cannot control. So I'm gonna play this so you can get an understanding of what's happening as I add lights in to my setup. All right, so you can see here, I've added one key light. And as you can see, my face is now lit. You can see me, the background is dark. I removed that nasty overhead light, but there's a hard shadow on one side of my face. You can't see my other ear. And that's because I only have one light source at a 45-degree angle from my face. Now, my setup, I don't actually have a fill light because it's just not necessary. For you guys creating content, you don't have to go out and buy a bunch of lights. Let's continue. All right, now all I've simply added is just the backlights. The orange light on the left and the blue light on the right. You can see the background. You can see me clearly. There's depth in this video. There's depth in this image. And that's all it is. One light and some background lights. That's it. So you can create a high quality video just like this. So let's talk about camera settings. If you're not using a smartphone, frame rate is important. If you're using a mirrorless camera, you need to choose the right frame rate. For a more cinematic look, you need to choose 24 frames per second. For slow motion, if you want to slow down your footage and make it slow-mo, you need to choose 60 frames per second. Every camera is different, so I don't want to show you how to choose the frame rate in my camera, and it's not a camera you don't own. But now you know about frame rates. If you have a camera or you choose to buy a camera, you can just go on YouTube and search how to change it. And that's going to go for all these camera settings. The next is the 180-degree rule. So when you're setting up your camera, after you choose a frame rate, you want to choose a shutter speed. And the shutter speed should be double your frame rate. So our frame rate is 24 frames per second. So your shutter speed should be 1/48 or 1/50. The next setting you want to change is your ISO. And the ISO is your camera's way of manufacturing light. So bringing in more light that's not necessarily present in real life. You want to shoot at your camera's native ISO if possible. Every camera has a different native ISO. My camera's native ISO is 640. The reason why I say shoot at your camera's native ISO is because most people try to shoot at the lowest ISO to reduce the amount of noise in their image. But that's not actually what you should do. What you should do is you should shoot at the recommended ISO or the native ISO that your camera manufacturer provides. And every camera is different, so you have to look that up. The last camera setting you want to look at is your aperture. And your aperture is how much light your lens lets into your sensor. Now, most people think, okay, I'm going to shoot at the lowest aperture, let in the most light so I can get a blurry background, I can get a well-lit image. But the problem with that is sometimes shooting at the lowest aperture causes focus issues because the depth of field is so small. If you move around, you're out of focus. So the sharpest image is usually what we call a few stops up from your lowest aperture. So for example, if your lens can shoot at a 1.8, I would say instead shoot at 3.2. So don't shoot at the lowest, which is 1.8, shoot at 3.2. Focus. So some cameras, they don't have good autofocus capabilities. I would recommend that you set your camera on manual focus yourself up so that you're not worried about your final output being out of focus. If you rely on your camera's autofocus, there's a potential that in certain sections of the video, it could lose focus on you or your subject, and you don't want that. So these are the camera settings if you choose to have or use a mirrorless camera to record your content. If you are creating content with a smartphone, you also have the ability to manipulate these individual camera settings, but you're going to have to go through an app to do that. And Blackmagic has an app that you can use where you can have control over all of these settings as well. Let's talk about video editing best practices. So 1, you need to be organized. Once you create your content, you have to edit it. And if you don't have the money to outsource editing, even if you do, you have to have somewhere to store your files and you have to be organized. The more organized you are, the more consistent you're going to be in creating content. Next, you want to use effects and transitions. So effects and transitions are what help keep the audience engaged when they're watching your content. And so video editing software have transition and effects you can add in post-production to your content. But I think that in-camera transitions are always best. So for example, an in-camera transition for me could be when I'm going from one thought to another, I can end my first thought by covering the camera lens and then begin my next thought by opening the camera lens, say at a different location. That's a really easy camera transition that you can use to make your content more interesting. Also utilize captions, also utilize text overlays to emphasize key points. You don't want to just have video on your content. You want to utilize text in your content as well. Number 3, keep it concise. When you're creating content and you're editing, there's going to be a tendency for you to include fluff, include things that don't serve the story, don't serve the purpose of your content. So the general practice and general advice is to keep your content as concise as possible. When you're editing, go through and take out all the parts that don't serve the point of the content. Watch it back and then cut some more. Trust me, the more you cut, the better the viewing experience for the audience. And last, high quality audio. So to get high quality audio is not just about making sure your room is set up correctly. It's not just about purchasing a high quality microphone. You also have to remove background noise from your audio in post-production or in your video editor. In addition, you can add background music and sound effects to enhance your video to make it more engaging. People are more likely to watch a video with great audio, engaging audio that makes them feel something, than they are to watch content that has high quality video but poor audio. Audio is 50% of the viewer experience and deserves just as much attention. All right, so let's talk about how to get your first 1,000 followers in 30 days. When I committed to growing my social media presence, this system allowed me to get actually 10,000 followers on TikTok and almost 30,000 followers on Instagram. So it works. I've used it and I want to share it with you. And if you follow what's in here, you're going to get 1,000 followers in no time. Here's the roadmap to getting your first 1,000 followers. Number one, you have to follow your content strategy. You have to trust the process. Number two, you have to be consistent and you have to create a routine. Develop a content schedule that you can commit to. Don't try to do something that's crazy and it is not sustainable. Do what you can commit to. Number three, make content for people, not for algorithms. So many content creators are trying to break down the algorithm, trying to understand. And it's like, look, there's another person on the other side of the screen. If you make content for them to enjoy, content that builds them up, content that teaches them, that's valuable to them, your content's going to do well and your goals are going to be reached. Again, we talked about this earlier. If your goal is to make a full-time living as a content creator or even to make some side money, the most lucrative content creators don't have a super large following. What they do have is a following that is engaged with them, that knows them, that trusts them. So that's what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to build an audience that trusts us. If your audience trusts you, then they'll do whatever, they'll be a part of whatever you got going on. So we're making content for people. Number four, we have to learn how to captivate your audience. We're going to talk about how to create viral content, talk about formats and experimenting and optimizing. Number five, you're building community. When you're getting followers that are interested in what you have to talk about, you're building community. In order to build community, you have to engage with your audience. You can't just post content and disappear, right? People want to engage with you. Let's keep going. I want to stress this one more time. Follow your strategy. The content strategy that we outline, it accounts for things not working. That's why the last step of it is to evaluate and adapt. If something's not working, tweak it. If something's not working, experiment, but follow your strategy. The strategy is your roadmap. It helps keep you consistent and helps you reach your content goals. Secondly, create a consistent routine. You need to create a posting schedule. Set a posting schedule, stick to it. I don't care if it's once a week, twice a week, or if you want to post 3 times a day. Whatever it is, create a posting schedule that you can stick to. Use scheduling tools. I use scheduling tools to plan out my content and to post it. Right now, my tool is Metricool, and I use their free version. And so it allows me to create a content calendar. It allows me to upload my content and plan it out to post ahead of time so I don't have to think about posting it. And this leads me to another point of batch creating your content. I recommend that not to be overwhelmed, you take a day, take some time aside, and you make the content that you're going to make for the week, that you're going to post for the week rather, or you could do it for the month. It's up to you. But batch creating your content helps so that you're not on the day of thinking, okay, what am I going to post today? So batch create your content, upload that content to a scheduling tool and schedule it to go out on specific dates and time. Post at different times. So you want to experiment with posting at different times. Most platforms, they give you data on where your audience is or when your audience is most active on that platform. So you can try posting on those times. My audience is active every day, Wednesdays at 12 p.m., Thursdays at 3 p.m., Fridays at 10 a.m. So I'm going to experiment posting at those times and see if that improves how many views I get. So experiment with different posting times to see what works for you and works for your audience. Last, be consistent. Consistency builds trust with your audience. They're expecting your content at certain times, so be consistent with it. And last, I want to talk about the law of 100. What is the law of 100? The law of 100 is based on a study by a professor at the University of Florida, I believe. He was a professor of a photography course or photography class. And he tried an experiment where he separated his class into 2 groups. Half the class, in order to get a grade, had to take 100 photos and turn those 100 photos in to get a grade, a passing grade. The other half only had to turn in 1 photo, but that photo had to be as perfect as they could possibly make it. So my question to you is, which group do you think at the end had the higher quality photos? If you guessed the first group, then you're correct. But why? The first group had higher quality photos because they spent more time working on taking pictures, being in the lab, tweaking, adapting. They had so much more time iterating photos that by the end of those 100 photos, those photos were looking amazing. Whereas the other half of the group, they only worked on one photo. And so they didn't have as much reps. So the law of 100 is whatever you're going to do it 100 times before you give up. Look at it like practice, like you're getting in reps. Don't worry about the results so much. Worry about getting in the reps. And if you can get to 100, I guarantee you that your content is going to be drastically different than when you first started out. So let's talk about making authentic content, right? We talked about making content for people, not for algorithms. But how do you do that? So one, you want to get clear about your identity, and your identity are just your defining characteristics. For example, I am a Christian. I'm a rap artist. I'm a husband. I am a black belt in Taekwondo. I love to play basketball. These are all the characteristics that make up my identity, right? So get clear about who you are. List out 15 things that are characteristics of your identity. So next, pick a relatable topic. And you want to make observations about topics that would resonate with people like you. So for example, I'm a Christian rap artist. So what are some things that Christian rap artists experience that other people don't? Like, for example, a lot of people think Christian hip hop is whack. That's just a reality, or that has been a reality for a long time. Make those observations, and then I can make content around, well, hey, is Christian hip hop whack? So make observations about your identity and you'll find relatable content ideas. Number 3, to be authentic, you have to embrace your opinion. Almost every topic in the world has been covered, but what makes your content unique is your point of view and your opinion. So embrace your opinion, share your opinion. That's what makes your content stand out. Number 4, write for the internet. Now, what does that mean, right? Well, the way that we talk is not the way that we write. And the way that we write oftentimes is very professional and formal. But for social media, you don't want to be professional and formal. You want to be more conversational, casual, and informal. You want to write and you want to talk as if you're talking to a real person. So don't be basic. Write as if you're talking to the real world. That's how you write for the internet. And number 5, be personable. Let your personality shine. Don't be afraid to be you. That's what draws us in. That's what makes you unique. That's what attracts your audience to you. So let's talk about how to hook and hold your audience. How do we increase that watch time? How do we get people to stop the scroll, look at your content, and then stay and consume your content? So one, I want to talk to you about the viral content structure. So every post is made up of 3 elements. The first is the hook. The hook is whatever happens in the first 3 to 5 seconds that stops and grabs someone's attention. The value is what comes after the hook. And the value is the meat of your post. It's the thing that the person wants. It's the advice on how to grow an audience. It's the steps on how to build a raised garden bed, right? That's the value. And lastly, you have the CTA, or the call to action. The call to action is what you want your audience to do after they've consumed your content, right? Follow me for more tips. DM me the word magic and I'll send you a free document. You have to tell your audience what to do. They're not going to know what to do when they finish your content. So you have to tell them what to do. And CTA is really where I see a lot of creators miss. And so they make this great content, but then their audience has no idea what to do after that. To keep your audience engaged, you want to write out your scripts. You want to write out what you're going to say, right? And the reason why I recommend that, especially for beginner creators, is that writing out your scripts, one, it helps you iron out your thoughts, and it gives you more room for spontaneity. I'm not saying that when you deliver it, you have to read it. You have to read your script and look like a robot, but at least write your script out so you know what you want to say. And then you can get on camera and speak by the script or with the outline or whatever. But at least you've ironed out what you wanted to say and you can deviate from it. Number 3, one of the most important steps in creating engaging content and holding your content is storytelling. Storytelling is the key to making memorable content because stories are the vehicle in which people actually remember things. Everything in your life is pretty much a story. When you talk to people, you guys are sharing stories about what happened in your life. When you watch movies, everything's a story. Story is the way that we best consume and learn things in general. You have to implement storytelling into your content. Number 4, find your formats. A lot of people say, oh, copy trends. There's somebody doing a crazy dance, do the dance too. I don't recommend trends, but what I do recommend is copying formats. So you want to look at creators in your niche and you want to say, okay, what formats are they using time and time again that's consistently getting good results? And you want to try those formats with your audience. So a format could be a podcast style. It could be a skit. It could be a fake advertisement. Whatever it is, you want to find your format that resonates with your audience and you want to double down on that. Next is dynamic graphics. So you want to use visuals to explain complex concepts, right? Visually, people are going to be able to understand what you're saying much better than just you saying it. So this is dynamic graphics, dynamic visuals. You want to give them some kind of visual that pairs with what you're saying so they can quickly process and understand what it is that you're trying to convey. So let's talk about 5 types of hooks really quickly. 1, you have a text hook. And it's pretty much self-explanatory, but it's any text on the screen that you use that the audience reads, right? Number 2 is your visual hook. This includes any movement, striking imagery or color. Basically, your video should stand out if somebody was watching it on mute, right? That's a visual hook. So, for example, my wife, she created a post where she had a ball of hair burning. That's how the video started. A ball of hair burning in her hand, right? That's a very visual stop the scroll hook. Number 3, an audio hook. Is the audio clear, crisp, easy to understand? Are you using audio that's trending? Have you incorporated any unique sound effects or elements? Does your audio invoke some kind of emotion, right? If you're doing a scary post, there's a scary music that starts off the video, right? Next, verbal hooks. What are you saying? Are you saying something controversial or polarizing? Are you asking your audience thought-provoking questions to start the video? You want to use verbal hooks in your videos to get their attention. And then last is a caption hook. And this one's often overlooked, but your caption is your last chance to hook your viewer in to watch your content. And although like for example, on Instagram, most people don't look at captions. For those that do, it's an opportunity for you to draw them in. It's probably your last chance before they swipe to another video. Let's talk about storytelling. And I want to simplify storytelling. This is not a deep dive of storytelling, but this is the basics of how to tell stories that captivate your viewers. Stories are all about change. So in this structure, we have what's called the normal, right? The normal is describing what is your audience current problem? What pain are they experiencing or how do they feel? So in your content, you want to start off describing the normal or addressing the normal. Then we have what's called the explosion. This is where this is the catalyst for change. How does your content solve their problem? Or how does it make their life easier? So this is where you provide the solution really, right? The solution that solves their problem. And then number 3 is the new normal or the change. What is their life like now after the problem is solved? This is where you want to describe what their life would be like if they were to implement your solution, for example. Last, I want to talk about the important elements of viral video thumbnails and just graphics in general. 1, you want to take advantage of human psychology. So our brains process information from left to right. So when you're creating your graphics, you want to have an important element on the left side, or you want to have an element that points from left to right. You want to use primary colors. So your images have high saturation, high color contrast. Red is a very popular color. We talked about the color wheel as well. So red is a popular color for getting the attention of adults, and you can use this to your advantage. You should have one primary element in your graphics. Don't clutter your images. I see a lot of beginner creators make this mistake where they have a bunch of stuff going on in the image and your brain can't process all of it. So you want to simplify your thumbnails, Give them one primary element. For example, if you're on YouTube, that primary element, a lot of creators, it's themselves. It's a picture of you making some weird face. And speaking of weird faces, you want to invoke emotion with your images. And an easy way to accomplish that is with facial expressions. So if your facial expression can convey some emotion of like excitement or anger, these are going to be more captivating and are going to get the interest of your audience more readily than if you just have a blank face. All right, I want to talk about building community. That's what you're doing when you're a content creator. You're building a community of people who are interested in the value you're delivering to the community. And so how do you build your community? How do you engage people? How do you get them to rally around you, to support you, to support each other? So you want to engage with your followers. And I see a lot of creators drop the ball in this area, but you want to respond to every single person that interacts with your content. You want to treat every follower, every person as if they're only one in the world, as if they're your only follower. And you want to make sure that you respond and engage with them. Don't be weird. You need to engage with your audience the same way they engage with you. So if someone drops an emoji comment on your post, you don't write them a dissertation. You reply back with emojis. You want to communicate with them the same way they communicate with you. You're going to have some people who write just emojis. You're going to have people who write long messages and they really are interested and want to provide their point of view on what you shared. That's your opportunity to go deeper with them. Ask them questions. To build community, you need to get to know what your audience wants. And you can do this through polls, through surveys, through simply making content that just asks them what it is that you want to know. You want to create the content that they want and that they need. You need to create content that your audience wants and needs. And you can do that based on the feedback they give you that you've received from them. Ask them what they want. Ask them what kind of content, what kind of topics they want to hear about, they want you to talk about, and then make the content in response. Last, you need to create posts that drive engagement. These can be posts that bring them in on your decision-making process, or posts that seek their opinion, or posts that rally them around a particular cause. These three kind of posts are posts that are sure to drive engagement, to get responses from the people in your audience. So you're like, Charles, you didn't cover how I can make money though, right? I didn't talk about how to monetize your following. And I was intentional because as a beginner creator, you should not be focused on that yet. You don't know how to even build an audience, build a community. I didn't cover that in this masterclass. But if you want to go deeper on how to create engaging content, how to monetize your following, then I invite you to join my school community, Hired by God. And you can join a community of like-minded creators who are looking to create high quality content and to quit their 9-to-5, becoming full-time creators, or just build a side hustle and create money on the side through their content. So let's do a recap. All right. We talked about content creation isn't going anywhere. It's the future, and it's still a good time to get into the content creation game. We talked about having a content strategy. This is key to whether or not you're going to succeed. We talked about selecting the right gear, and I gave you my gear recommendations for every budget. We talked about how to make high quality video, setting up your space, lighting techniques to make a high quality video. And we talked about how to get your first 1,000 followers in 30 days and the engagement tactics to grow an audience. So that's where I'm gonna end with you guys. Let's get to work. Again, join our school community, school.com/hired by God. Peace.